All right, we're in the new spot. No more kitchen. We are filming in my living room at my new apartment. And this is going to air in a couple weeks, but last night in real time, I was at the Colonial Theater, home of The Blob, for Joe Bob Briggs' cult film rock double feature. Joe Bob and Darcy were there and did a Q&A and told us stories about the making of the two movies. The one movie being the Roger Corman produced PJ Souls and Clint Howard starring Rock and Roll High School with the Ramones. Great flick if you haven't seen it. But the other movie that they showed is what I'm going to talk about tonight, and that is Don Coscarelli's Bubba Ho-Tep from 2003. Oh, if you can hear my washer and dryer running, because it's in my kitchen. Last time I was folding laundry for a review. This time it's just running, so I have a clean shirt for work tomorrow. So Don Coscarelli, the director of the Phantasm series and the Beastmaster series, and the really underappreciated John Dies at the End. If you haven't seen that one, check that one out. This movie is it was based on a short story that was in an anthology book of Elvis stories called "The King Is Dead." And the writer had been trying for a really long time to get one of his scripts off the ground, and Coscarelli liked this one, to much the chagrin of the writer. And when he brought the project to producers, no one was interested in doing it. And the reason that no one was interested in doing it is because, okay, if you've never seen this movie before, I'm going to explain something to you, and you're going to be like, what? Like, that's obviously, like, a fake movie concept. So Bruce Campbell, Ashley J. Williams himself, the man, the myth, the chin, plays Elvis Presley, the Elvis Presley. 65 years old. The whole movie takes place in a nursing home. Elvis got tired of Elvising and traded off with a Elvis impersonator. And the Elvis impersonator liked drugs more than Elvis did and had a bad heart. And they had a contract written up that said, like, if I ever decide I want to come back to Elvising, we'll switch off. It's the Prince and the Pauper kind of deal. But Elvis blows up his trailer on accident, and the contract was inside. But he doesn't care. He's enjoying his life. But he falls off a stage, breaks his hip, because now the real Elvis is going out as an Elvis impersonator, as an Elvis impersonator is now Elvis. So it's like poetry, it rhymes. So he falls off the stage, breaks his hip, and now he's in a nursing home, and everybody thinks he's crazy. He also has a growth at the end of his dick, which has to be drained by a nurse every day. And then you meet John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy is a black man in this movie. He's played by Ozzie Davis, who's an amazing actor. My favorite of all of his movies is Hell Comes to Harlem from 1970. But if you've ever seen any Spike Lee movies, like he's in Jungle Fever, he's in She's Gotta Have It, he's in Do the Right Thing, he's in Dr. Dolittle. So basically his plot is John F. Kennedy's brain was taken out after the assassination and saved. They put a bag of sand in the back, the part they couldn't replace. They have it hooked up to a battery at the White House, and then they dyed his skin black so nobody would ever believe his story. So now he's living in this nursing home with Elvis. And at the same time, senior citizens are having their souls sucked out of their assholes by a mummy dressed as a cowboy who likes to write lewd hieroglyphics on the bathroom wall about, how Cleopatra was a slut and stuff like that. So you hear that and you go, okay, it was like a trauma movie or like a South Park kind of vibe. But really what the movie is, it's got all those crazy elements. It's got, dive-bombing killer scarabs that kind of move like the balls in the Phantasm series. But really what it is it's ruminating on getting old and regret. Because most of the movie is Elvis narrating and, the passage of time of, roommates in his nursing home dying, and then him still being there. Him not being able to get an erection anymore. When his roommate dies and his daughter comes to like go through his stuff and throw stuff away, she kind of bends over and shows her panties. And he said that his pecker fluttered like a pigeon having a heart attack. But it doesn't take long for him to realize that for him and JFK to realize that something is going on. The mummy was taken from Egypt, at the time when they were discovering Tutankhamun and all that stuff, and was being traveled around the South, and then some guys stole it, and the mummy that was inside of it is trapped because he was cursed. And when these guys stole it, they accidentally crashed because of a storm in their vehicle into this river, and the mummy got out. And now the mummy's out there reaping souls of seniors because they can't fight back. Why it's through the asshole, I don't know. But and that seems to be the thing that Elvis is most worried about, is having his a mummy's lips on his asshole. There's some great flashbacks in the movie of Campbell playing younger, still fat 70s Elvis. There's no Elvis music in the movie because they couldn't afford it. But the performances are great, and like you actually start to believe Ozzie Davis is JFK. It's obvious that he's a crazy person, but they plant just enough doubt in your head that he could be. And then, Campbell works in all those great Elvis-isms, thank you very much kind of stuff. And him just like, I like the idea of him just wishing that he could go back and make things right with his daughter, and, not have cheated on his wife and been a better man. And he's just like, I was the king of rock and roll, and now look at me. Like, I've got a nurse, draining the growth at the end of my penis. The Mummy was done by K&B Effects. They've done fucking everything. Watch Walking Dead. They do all that. And the movie, they couldn't get distribution, so they had to distribute it themselves. They couldn't get financing, so they had to finance it themselves. The movie, I think, cost $1 million, made 1.2, so it made its money back. Only 35 prints were ever struck. I have one of them, and it is here. So yeah, one of the 35 film prints of that Don Coscarelli made is literally sitting in my living room right now. And that's why I told the Colonial the other night, I was like, dude, you guys could have borrowed my print, and they did a DCP instead, which is fine. Looked great on the big screen. I never had a chance to see it on the big screen. But they couldn't afford K&B, at their regular rate. So K&B basically did it just for, they made the Mummy and the effects for just the materials. So whatever it cost for them to put the stuff together, they didn't charge anything beyond that. And the Mummy looks great. I love that it's called Bubba Ho-Tep. And in the beginning, it gives you like what Ho-Tep is. It's, the pharaoh and all that. And then Bubba, and then it's all of its local colloquialisms of like, a southern trailer park, all that kind of stuff. And because it's a mummy dressed in cowboy boots and a hat and everything. One of my favorite bits is when there's the standoff between Elvis, JFK, and the mummy. And when the mummy is talking to them, hieroglyphics come out on screen, and then under that is the words, and they're reading it, and I just think that's really fucking funny. I don't know, this is such a fun, interesting movie, because like I said, you have that the idea that, like, Elvis Presley and JFK and a mummy and old folks home, and Reggie Bannister from the Phantasm movies pops up in it. It could be like a farcical Sharknado kind of movie. Like, it could be intentionally trying to be a cult film with a plot like that. That would be like a movie where like an Elvis impersonator and an Axl Rose impersonator break out of a mental institution and go on a cross-country killing spree or something like that, But this one is more just about, looking back at your life and people who we put away in these homes and stuff like that. They don't have anything to live for anymore. Their families don't come see them. And Elvis finally starts to get gets an erection because he's finally doing something that thrills him again. It's been so long since he's had anything that made him feel alive. So it's them taking on this mummy. It's the last thing we're ever going to do. We're going to save these people, and they're going to get to leave this world with their souls intact, basically. It's a low budget movie, but its edges never show. And I actually think, as much as I fucking love the Evil Dead movies, I think this might be Bruce Campbell's best acting performance. Yeah, he's playing Elvis. I did the review of the Elvis movie that Austin Butler played Elvis, and it's easy for Elvis to become a parody of what he was, because towards the end he did become a parody of himself. But Bruce Campbell doesn't play him as broadly as you would imagine. Even under all the K&B makeup and stuff, there is still a soul to this guy, and you do feel bad for him, because when you're caught up in the moment of things, you make decisions that you wouldn't normally make as a person who was raised properly and all that. Because he loved his mama, and Elvis, he was a mama's boy. But he bought into the hype, and he bought into the drugs and the women and all that, and it has the ability to get you off your path. So it's cool that he has a redemption arc. I would have loved in real life if that's how Elvis went out. It's not gory. There's nudity. There's random boobs in a flashback scene. Because when the mummy is making his way down the hallway, he and Elvis lock eyes, and then there's like a psychic link, because they have to explain the backstory, and they just show a bunch of flashes to fill the audience in on who this guy is and all that. And it's just an easy plot convenience to keep us moving to the next part of it. It's very well shot. Coscarelli always has... His movies are so hard to quantify, because, try to explain to someone the Phantasm movies. There's certain beats that are known and all that, but they all kind of work on dream logic. And that's what's interesting about those movies, is they do, as they go on, they start to become more dreamy and more like comic booky as they go as well. Beastmaster's kind of straightforward, but still there are some weird choices in that movie. And so he's a dude who's an indie filmmaker who has his own way of doing things, his own voice when it comes to this kind of stuff. And, and he fucking had the balls to go out and say, okay, you don't want to make this movie. I really fucking want to make this movie. So we're just going to go do it ourselves, They shot it over 40 days, which is what got Bruce Campbell kind of locked in to be an actor and a producer on it. Because, Bruce Campbell started out as a producer for Evil Dead. He wasn't the actor. He was in it just because, he was going to be producing it. It would be easier to bring him on. And plus, I think Sam Raimi said, he was their only, handsome friend, so they just put him in it. But he came on as a producer on it, and he's the heart of the movie. But even, when you get to, and spoiler, when you get to the third act with JFK and him, there's just so many great little acting beats by Ozzie Davis that, again, plant those seeds in your head that, well, maybe this guy's not lying about the government plot, to come get him. His room at the nursing home is all filled with miniatures of the Dealey Plaza setup and mugshots of Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald and stuff. He has a scene where Elvis says to him, he's like, what was Marilyn Monroe like in the sack? And he's like, JFK is like, that's classified information, but wow. And then he just goes off on his little motorized wheelchair, and Elvis is like, I knew it. And his death, spoiler again, Ozzie Davis's death scene is actually very emotional. From again, a movie about a cowboy fucking mummy and Elvis with a mass at the end of his dick, and Black JFK. You wouldn't think that there would be emotional beats to it, but there actually are. Like I keep saying, this whole idea of time is the fire we all burn in, and you can't stop it, and all we can do is look back, and if we're going to regret things or not regret things, and living with that kind of regret for that long sucks. Trust me, I know. But that's why I kind of connect with this movie a lot. Is just like, as Elvis is narrating this thing, it's like, oh, I feel for this dude because I've been there. I there's so many things I wish I could go back and have a second chance on that I didn't. I never had to fight a mummy in a sequence jumpsuit, but there's always fucking tomorrow, right? But if you haven't seen this movie yet, it's a fucking gem. The crowd was super into it. A lot of people in the audience had never seen it before. Joe Bob told a really funny anecdote in the Q&A after, where the writer lived in this little Texas town, and there was only one theater in his town, and it had 2 screens. And Bubba Ho-Tep came out the same day as Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ. So Don Coscarelli, Bruce Campbell, because Don Coscarelli wrote the script, but the story is based on this writer. So they came down to his hometown, and they had the line for Passion of the Christ and the line for Bubba Ho-Tep next to each other, waiting to get into the theater. And it's like, imagine those conversations. But this is a really fun one. Again, I also would say check out John Dies at the End with Paul Giamatti. And they were trying to do a prequel at one point to Bubba Ho-Tep. It was going to be called Bubba Ho Nosferatu. And Colonel Tom was going to be Paul Giamatti, and then Ron Perlman was going to be Elvis because Bruce Campbell rejected the script. And it was going to be set in the 70s and be about vampires, and that would have been fucking cool. But I think we got a really weird, cool, fun B-movie out of this, and one that has a lot more heart and a lot more wit and a lot more style to it than you would imagine for a movie that was shot for that little money and in one location, basically. You don't see a lot of movies shot in senior homes, And I think one of the producers said they wanted it to be, one of the producers he went to, he said he wanted it to be Grumpy Old Men meets Ghostbusters, and Don Coscarelli's like, no, it's not that at all, So I have nothing but respect for the dude who makes these movies his way and doesn't let people say, no, we don't like that idea. He just goes out and fucking does it himself. And there's a lot to respect when it comes to that, when it comes to art in general. And again, a movie about Black JFK, 65-year-old non-Elvis impersonator Elvis in an old folks home fighting a cowboy mummy doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would be art, but I genuinely think this is a very sharp script, much like the last Phantasm movie, which wasn't great, Oblivion, but that one also deals with aging and with looking back and with nothing, feeling you have nothing to look forward to, so you're constantly looking back. Stories like that always kind of hit me, because I'm 41 and I've got, one foot in the fucking grave. I feel like I have far more yesterdays behind me than tomorrows ahead of me. But that's how I felt since I was 30. As soon as I hit 40, which was like the worst birthday ever, I've just been like, well, I got to accomplish something soon. What was this all for? But if you haven't seen Bubba Ho-Tep yet, I would definitely say go give it a look. It's probably on one of the streaming sites, but I just wanted to sit down and talk about it because I was there was other people in the theater yet last night who had never seen it before, and we were talking about it afterwards, and they were all kind of perplexed, thinking that it was going to be more of like a Sam Raimi style kind of wild thing. There are some really funny beats in it. There's some really, really funny lines in the movie, but for the most part, it's played straight. There's not really a lot of wink and nods at the camera. And like I said, I love that it doesn't get too broad and too bogged down in the grindhouse elements of the entire thing. It lets itself be an actual story, which I appreciate. So yeah, Don Coscarelli's Bubba Ho-Tep. Go check it out, and maybe I'll do the John Dies at the End at some point, or maybe I'll do Rock and Roll High School. I haven't seen that one in so fucking long, and I love the Ramones. That movie just has an awesome soundtrack. There's so many cool bands on it other than the Ramones. And Joe Bob told a really cool story on how that movie came to be. Originally, Roger Corman wanted it to be Disco High School, and they were like, Roger, disco ain't bringing down the system. And how the director basically had a nervous breakdown. So Joe Dante, the director of Gremlins, who used to be the trailer cutter for Roger Corman. He stepped in and directed the last scene, the big concert party scene. So that was pretty cool, getting to see that on the big screen. And with people. I love when there's a crowd, and I love when the crowd is into these kind of movies and all. I'm sorry, my allergies are killing me. So yeah, so we're in the new space. Well, I'm in the new space, just Elvira and I. And I just wanted to sit down and talk about this one and tell me what you thought about it. And we need to do more mummy movies. I wrote a mummy script that I really, really want to do one day, but there's such an underserved monster in the horror parlance. So what's your favorite mummy movie? You know, I wrote one called I Saw Mummy Killing Santa Claus, and it's about a mummy Krampus. So that's fun. Come here. Say goodbye to the people. I love you so much. All right, bye.